Hey podcast, in this episode, Caroline and I sit down with Lisa Collins. We talk a little bit about her background, her adoption story, and the upcoming book that she is working on related to that story. And then Caroline will jump in front of the camera this time and go over her trips to New York City. I hope you enjoy. Lisa, tell me a little bit about your background and your professional life and the various roles you've had throughout the years.
That's a long story. I started out at Artsbridge many years ago, and I was the director there for several years, and went to Clarksburg and was the director of an arts council there, went to DC and worked at the National Endowment for the Arts, and then I was in the arts for a long time, but it was always nonprofit. Right. And then I got kind of sidetracked and started doing marketing and public relations, because that's just what I naturally do. Right. And I went to work for Salter and Associates, and Ron Salter was kind of a mentor back in the day, and helped me kind of develop those skills, you know, and so that's what I've ended up doing even more of. Okay. So most recently you spent, I think, about 7 years at Habitat here in the Mid-Ohio Valley, is that correct? So that has come to an end as of late. Tell me about that experience for you, and then maybe what's the next chapter. I worked for Habitat for Humanity as their development person, which means I raised money. That means money, yes. That means money, yeah. My mom always says, what does that mean? Resource development means I raised the money. Kind of got their formal fundraising program started, and that was such a rewarding job. I loved that, and it was so amazing to see families get into homes and become home buyers and completely transform their lives because of that. And their lives and their children, I mean, it's a long reach. It refocuses, rechannels everything when you've been in insecure housing situations your whole life and you become a homeowner. It changes. It changes everything, and it was really life-changing for me to see that, you know, and be part of that. I was never allowed on the construction site. I found out that I'm accident prone. I actually broke some bones on a construction site, and they said, "You're done. You have lunch and ask for money. Don't come back to the construction site." So that's what I did. But I loved being there. But our local Habitat has grown so much, and they have a full staff now, and we hired I worked part-time all those years, and we hired a full-time development director, Robin Stewart, and she's doing a great job, and it was just time for me to do something else. So. So you're still in the marketing world on your own? I am. Actually, I work part-time for PMC as their marketing strategist, and that is a half-time job, and then I'm doing some contracted work on my own as well. Okay. So tell me a little bit more about PMC, and I think people probably are familiar with some of the buildings and office spaces, but what exactly is PMC? What do they do, and what is your role? PMC is a real estate development and management company, probably the biggest in this area. They have lots of buildings, lots of both retail and professional spaces that you can lease. They develop new spaces. They have rehabbed some spaces. They have about 1 million square feet in the valley and over 100 tenants. And as the marketing strategist, it's part of my role to get their name on things and help people be aware of what they do. To also manage some of the communications and the marketing programs, but PMC is owned by the Manette and Conley families, and they're very philanthropic. And it's been really fun for me to develop that side, because they have a family fund at the Parkersburg Area Community Foundation called the Spirit of Giving Fund, and I've been able to take that and kind of grow it and help to create a grant program within that so that nonprofits can apply. And over the last 2 or 3 years, we've been granting about $100,000 every year at Christmas time. And
so, is there a focus on that year to year, or is it just kind of fluid? Who applies?
It's kind of fluid. Sometimes the family determines a particular issue that they want to tackle. They're really interested in hunger, in kids in need. In the last couple of years, they've really been interested in the drug problem, the opioid issue. There's never been a singular focus. It's just kind of what the family sees as a need.
And that's not uncommon in that type of world. As the world changes and the community changes, giving sometimes changes based on what the needs are.
And the beauty of this is that they can sit down and say, we want to give back. They've always said this community has been really good to us. We want to give back. So what do we see as the biggest needs right now? So that's, and it's nice now to have a formalized grant program where different groups can apply, and then they can kind of sit down and look at what the needs are and assess where they want to put their funding. The cool thing about Spirit of Giving is they invite all their business associates, their vendors, people that they work with, their tenants, all to participate. And we collect money starting about September and up to a particular date in December every year. And then the Spirit of Giving Fund matches whatever we have raised.
Okay.
So like this past year it was $123,000. Half of that came from the people they do business with.
That's cool.
So it's a really fun effort to get everybody together. They started this because they realized they were spending lots of money on sending out flowers and candy at Christmas.
Right.
And said, here's this chunk of money.
Right.
Why don't we give this away in the name of the people that we're thanking for working with us? And so they started out like $7,000 the first year. And it has grown to over 100. So, yeah.
So how do people, if you're a nonprofit and you want to see if you qualify, or is it an application process?
It is. They can go on the PMC website, thepmcompany.com, and there's a Spirit of Giving tab. And you just click there, and all the details are there, and the application is there too.
And we'll link that in, if it's a video, we'll link it in the comments, or on the audio, we'll link it in the comments of the podcast, so people can just go right there.
Great.
I understand you are an author, or becoming an author, or something like that?
I'm working on a book, actually. Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Well, I was adopted by an amazing family that has always been and always will be my family, my Starcher family. Never had any interest in looking. A lot of people, as soon as I turn 18, I'm going to find I never had that interest at all. My family is mine, and that's where I belong.
Right.
I have 3 daughters and some strange health history. And so my oldest started pushing me to do ancestry DNA to see if I could find out something about our health history. So I finally spit in the tube, sent it off, and figured, who knows what I'll see some 7th cousin. And I'll find out I'm Italian. That's what everybody thought. And it came back with a half-sister at the very top.
So did that person also research it too, or how does that work?
She was she was in the database, obviously, but she hadn't looked at it for a long time.
Okay.
So she hadn't seen it when I popped up, because she'd been in there for years.
Right.
She is kind of the keeper of the family history for her family, so she had done it just to complete family trees and genealogy and all that sort of thing. So I was a shock.
Yeah.
In fact, when I called her, it took me about 9 hours. This popped up online about 10 o'clock at night. I stayed up all night. Didn't sleep for 24 hours probably. Researched like crazy. Started making connections, figured out who she was, and found a first cousin on Facebook.
Okay.
And he happened to be online when I got on there and messaged him, because it's hard to connect with people. His name was Todd, and I found Todd, and he started answering my questions. And he couldn't see my face because we weren't friends, and something was preventing us from becoming friends. He couldn't see my picture. So finally I screenshotted a picture and sent it to him. He said, "Oh my gosh, you look exactly like my mother." I mean, it kind of freaked him out.
Wow, imagine.
And of course his mother was my aunt. And so from that moment, he's like, okay, this chick's for real. So this is my mom. Come back.
Did he even know you existed prior to that?
No.
Wow.
No, in fact, there's so much to this
I'm
story.
sure there is.
But
yeah.
it turns out that my biological father never knew that I existed. He never
Oh.
knew that about me.
Right.
So I found my father's entire side of the family. He's deceased, but I also found my half sister, 2 half brothers who were also deceased, and then another brother who had been adopted out.
Okay.
So he had not grown up with our biological
Right.
family. So we all got together, met. We decided that he needed to do a DNA test. We discovered that we were full siblings.
Oh, wow.
So it's an incredible story. Our parents were high school sweethearts, and he was the football star and she was a cheerleader.
Wow,
And
that's interesting.
And I've met a lot of people who went to school with them and have told me a lot about them. I have a whole list of women in their 70s who are excited to tell me all about how cute my dad was and how my mother never stopped talking. I don't get that.
So there's the whole nature versus nurture
It is
argument.
really
here.
interesting. But the best part about this whole story is that my mom and dad have been on board from day one. They encouraged me to do it. They were supportive. They have met my new siblings, love them. Mom said, my brother is like he's just part of the family. It's like he belongs
there's probably
here.
a weird connection. Yeah.
There is, and Mom and Dad said, it's just more of you. It's somebody
Right.
who's part of you that we love. And my dad said to my brother, if we had known you were out there, we would have come and got you too.
Right.
I mean, that just,
Wow.
it was amazing. And I have a brother that I grew up with who has just been so supportive of the whole thing, and my new brother, he's an airplane guy. He works for a major airline, but he's a hunter. He's a woods guy. Even though he's in a professional setting, he's
Right.
very much, he fits in here.
He fits
He
in,
just walked right in like he was part of the family.
Cool.
So it's been an incredible experience.
So the book is the story?
It's the story. There's so much more to it that we
Right.
can't begin to go into
Right.
now. Lots of strange coincidences, just really interesting things. But it's been a unique experience trying to bond with these people. And I mean, they're strangers, but yet I
Right.
can look in their eyes and see something that I've never seen before.
Right.
You feel something. There's an attachment, a
Right.
connection that you can't describe. And to start that bonding process and figure out how they fit into your lives, like my mom said, well, we figured you'd find these people, you'd go meet them, you'd learn some stuff, and, life would go on. We had no idea that they would become part of your life like they
Right.
have. I mean, my brother and I have been back and forth to see each other a lot in a year. We've vacationed together. Our families
Wow.
know each other. It's completely changed my whole family's makeup. I have more family now.
Right.
And so that in itself is a process, learning how to
How did
deal with that,
Yeah, how to
and how
deal
to
with
make
all
that
that.
be part of your everyday existence. I mean, I talk to my brother every day, and a year ago I didn't know he existed.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's very strange. My biological mother is still alive. I've never met her. She doesn't acknowledge the situation, so that's a whole other subject to
Sure.
deal with. You kind of push it aside and figure, okay, I wasn't meant to be part of that
Right.
family, but her brother and his kids have been welcoming and open, and so I do have that part of the family. So just a lot of strange stuff to navigate. And my poor kids are like, really? There's another aunt or cousin we're meeting today? Every time we go on vacation now, it's to meet some new cousin. So yeah, it's
That could be
wow.
exciting for them too. I could see
It
that
is.
for
It is.
sure. Yeah.
I have really interesting and unique children. they're,
Okay.
they're very creative
Yeah.
and very articulate, but very artistic and kind of outside the box. Big thinkers, world thinkers. The cousins that we met, exactly like them.
Really?
The first ones
Wow.
my kids are into anime and Japanese stuff, and they build these costumes and they do cosplay of Japanese characters. Their cousin was into all the exact
That's
same things,
so weird.
same music, listened to this. They were Panic at the Disco fans, all of them when they met. I mean, at that time, it's like I don't know any other 11-year-olds like this, except these people that we just met that we are related to. So
Wow.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
So the book is going to be the story, but also kind of the psychological sidebars of that.
Yeah, there's
how
a
you
lot
deal with
to
that.
it. It's complex.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack.
Is there a timeline, or is it just go as you go and see what happens?
Since part of my goal of switching gears and having a couple days that I'm doing things on my own and not in an office, part of that goal is to work on the book. My sister and I have a writing retreat in a couple of weeks that we're going to get together. She's an attorney and she's an amazing writer. She actually, her undergrad, she went to school on a creative writing scholarship.
Okay.
And so she is going to help write.
Okay.
And we're going to do each of our perspectives. I would love to think we would have something kind of ready to shop by fall.
Okay.
Because, I mean, I've been writing a lot.
And it's an ever-changing, I mean, you're still learning, and
oh,
it's just
every day.
Yeah.
It's incredible. We found, my father was also a writer, and we have tons of his stuff. He wrote while he was in Vietnam. He had some, I mean, wow, incredible stuff that we're going to kind of include as part of this.
Wow.
My brother's the only one who's really, he's a technical writer, but he doesn't write for enjoyment like we do, so.
Well, my next question is, have you taken them on one of your New York trips?
Yes.
You have?
I have.
I was kind of sarcastic, but...
No. Last year, that was our holiday together, because
That's
we
cool.
always go in November. So my sister and her 2 kids and my brother and his wife went with us. And now here's another crazy thing. All of us raised in kind of a rural environment, in totally different places. We're all world travelers, and we all love New York City.
Wow.
All 3 of us.
So
into that depth of...
Yes.
Oh,
I mean, my brother Kevin travels all over the world, and Hong Kong is one of his favorite cities, but New York is one of those places that he just loves to go back, and he'll sit in Central Park for hours.
Where did your love affair of New York City come from, or how did that develop?
I've always been a theater fan.
Okay.
From the time the first show I saw, I was 5 years old, and my parents took me to see Arsenic and Old Lace at Spencer High School.
Okay.
And I will never forget that. I sat there and thought, this is amazing. This is magical. And I always wanted to... I've done amateur theater. I've done Actors Guild stuff,
Right.
I've performed, but I knew I didn't have the skill or the talent to actually
You've
do it for real.
You've done Dancing with the Stars.
And I won.
Yes.
Yes. And that was an act, let me tell you. But I've always loved live theater. So when I was about 21, I started going to New York every 6 months. I would save my money.
Yeah.
And I would take Pop-Tarts and tuna and crackers and live on that and do nothing but see shows. I would go for, like 4 days and see 6 shows.
Wow.
Of course, back then you could get a ticket for $50. Not anymore.
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine.
No, but I did that for years. Just
By yourself, or?
Sometimes by myself,
Friends,
sometimes
or?
with friends. I love going by myself, though, because I can
Really?
totally do my own thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was taking a women's creativity class, and we were doing these visioning boards of things we'd love, and of course, a lot of mine was New York stuff. And somebody said, "Why don't you take our class, and we'll go to New York. Let's all go together." And I started thinking, wait a minute. So first I did it through a tour company, and they did all the bus and the hotel, and I just took people with me. And then it hit me, if I learn how to do this myself, I can take people and I can go for free.
Yeah.
That was it's like,
Right.
whew, why did I never think of this?
And a little bit of a tour guide, I assume, as
Yes,
well. Yeah.
yes. So that's how it started, and I go 2 or 3 times a year, and I've tried other places. I've done a couple of other trips, but I don't get the same response. New York, everybody, that's an easy sell. People want to go. My trips are kind of unique because it's not my tagline is, this is not your grandmother's bus tour. Because I don't hold your hand. I don't schedule your meals. I don't schedule your shows. I get you there on a fabulous bus.
Right.
We make sure our buses are 3 years or newer, because I'm not having breakdowns on
Right.
Route 50 in the middle of nowhere anymore. We stay in the best hotel in Times Square. We stay usually 2 or 3 nights, and I hire a step-on guide in New York to go with us, and we do a 4-hour tour of the city, and they take us to all the major stops, and we see everything
on the bus.
On the bus,
Okay.
to kind of give people an idea of what they want to go back and spend more time doing.
Right.
And I will help with dinner reservations or show
Or
tickets or
recommendations,
recommendations, but people are pretty much on their own. So I get a lot of people my age who just want to go and shop and see shows and
Right.
have fun, and they don't want to be shepherded from
Rigid,
place to
yeah.
place. You know.
So it's called Arts and Culture Tours?
Arts and Culture Tours, and it's Trips with Lisa on Facebook. Arts and
Okay.
Culture Tours.
And we'll link that as well
Yeah, we'll.
in the description.
So I have one in July and one in November this year.
Give me just a quick overview. Is it a Friday, Sunday, or
Yeah, we
how does
leave
that
at
work?
4 a.m. on Friday. We get there about 2:30 in the afternoon, and then we come home. We leave the city at 5:30 on Sunday, so we get home like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
And prices, if you have 4 people in a room, it starts at about $450 and up per person, depending on how many people are in the room.
Which outside of your shows and meals, it's your transportation and room, right?
Exactly, and
Yeah,
then
which
tour the
is-
city, and then you decide. You know, there's a McDonald's dollar menu right outside the hotel.
Right.
You can eat that the whole weekend if you want to,
Right.
and do nothing but wander around and see stuff. You know,
Right.
there's plenty to do that's
Are
free.
they always in those time frames, summer and November?
Yeah, that's normally. I've done a couple in the spring, but it's very hard to get buses and hotels in the spring because that's school field trip time. So a lot of schools
Yeah.
book up buses for 10 years in advance, and it's just harder. So
Yeah.
we generally do July and then the weekend before Thanksgiving, because after Thanksgiving it gets really
I'm sure it does.
packed, and the buses don't want to drive around in the city. They want to just drop you off and come get you.
Yeah.
Because it's just too crowded.
I went as I don't know how I remember it, but I had a aunt and uncle that lived outside of the city, and we went and visited on my dad's side, and I think we went in and did some things once, but I was so young, you know, I don't remember too much of it. I would love to go back and be a little more free. That would be
Hey,
interesting.
I'll sign you up.
Because I'm a giant sports fan, and there's a lot of that there, and I just kind of like,
Oh yeah, we went once when Nick Swisher was still there, and went to Yankee Stadium, and he took us down, and we
That's
got
cool.
on the field, and we got to try on his ring from the World Series, and it's amazing.
cool.
You know, there's no shortage of stuff to do there.
Sure.
I've been there probably 150 times now. I never run out of things to do.
All right.
Hey podcast, this is Caroline. Nathan and I are going to switch roles right now, and I'm going to be interviewing Lisa about her trips to New York. So, what was your craziest experience in New York?
I'm a celebrity hunter. I'll be the first one to admit, and so I always go to stage doors after shows are over and try and, you know, usually the people who are in the show will come out and sign autographs and that
Yeah.
sort of thing. So I met Sting and got his autograph. He's one of my all-time favorite singers, and so that was pretty cool. Tyne Daly was a major TV star 25 years ago probably, and she was in Gypsy. And she came out, and I really, at the time I was working at Artsbridge, and I wanted to get her to come here and be like a presenter for an arts awards thing
Yeah.
we were doing. So she was walking, and she was kind of in a hurry, and I was following her, and she got in her limo, and I got in with her.
Like a crazy fan.
I wasn't thinking. I mean, I had my card in my hand, and I'm like, Miss Daly, here. I work for Artsbridge, and I really want you to come and do this. And her security guard tapped me on the shoulder, and he said, "Excuse me, ma'am, you're going to have to get out of the car."
my gosh.
That was kind of embarrassing. We were on our way home one time. This was not a bus tour. This is when we flew. And in the airport, we saw Daryl Hall and John Oates, which were famous performers. So I don't know if I even should tell this, really. But I ran over to get their autographs. I don't autograph hound people like I used to. For years, I followed them around. you
Yeah.
know, but now I'm kind of like, yeah, that's all right. Anyway, I ran over to get Daryl Hall's autograph, and I reached into my purse, and I pulled out, I always had a notepad ready and a Sharpie. So I pulled out my notepad without even looking and handed it to him like this, and there was a mini pad stuck to the back. And I looked down about
I knew
the
it was gonna
time
be something
he
like
reached for it, and he's like, "You really want me to sign this?" And I was so embarrassed. And I yanked it back and shoved it back in my bag and pulled out something else. And then later I thought, why didn't I have him sign that?
Yeah.
How funny would that have been to have, I mean, you know, Planet Hollywood probably would have bought it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, and I remember being there for the other one other crazy story that you've had. Bob Saget came onto our tour bus.
Yeah, so you were there with the Southern Bells.
Yes.
That's one thing that's really fun. I love taking the Bells. I've taken them a couple times.
A trip that I'll never stop talking about.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was literally the best experience of my life.
Why? Tell me why.
Just performing in Times Square, and all people thought we were celebrities or something.
They thought you were Rockettes, is what they thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was crazy. Like, people were coming up to us and asking for our picture. That's awesome. Like,
so we did a whole, just to kind of explain this, we did a whole flash mob tour and took you all over the city, and we would stop in these crazy places, and you guys would get out in full costume and music and
it was
perform.
freezing, by the way.
It was freezing, yeah, and you were in your little tiny outfits. But people loved it everywhere we went. We kind of got in trouble in Central Park. They came over and maybe it wasn't the year you were there. Maybe it was the next time. They came over and said, you know, you have to have a license to do this. And it's like, well, we're done now. Thanks.
Bye. Oh,
yeah.
A crazy story. What happened in Central Park? Like, there was a proposal behind us.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yes. Yeah. And then the bride and groom came over and got their pictures with you.
They thought
you were Rockettes. They thought. And you guys were just as good as the Rockettes. It was amazing.
Thank
you.
You.
This Bob Saget thing, we were getting on the bus to come home, and everybody was on the bus. And I looked out, and I saw Bob Saget walking down the street, and I thought, I'm not missing an opportunity. So I jumped off the bus and went and grabbed him, and I said, I've got a busload of teenagers and their moms who will lose their minds if
and we
you
did.
just get on and say hi. And he's, you know, very egotistical, and he was happy about it. He's like, women losing their minds? I'm coming with you. So he got on the bus, and he literally just stepped up.
I just saw his head peek through.
And you guys went crazy.
All the moms stood up saying, Bob Saget, it's me.
And the kids were all like, Uncle Danny.
Yeah, we were singing the theme song, like, going
Full
towards
House.
him. Just, he was probably like, this is normal.
But I love this, yeah.
And Candace Cameron was there, too.
She got on the bus and said, Bob, we got to go.
Yeah, it was like the show. I was watching it.
Yeah. So that was one of the coolest celebrity experiences, with somebody coming and interacting with us. The other really fun thing is you can go after Saturday Night Live and the whole Saturday Night Live cast. Did you do that?
No, but
the cast comes out.
Yeah, we were going to, but then something happened.
Yeah, well, we've gone and done that a couple times and meet the cast when they come out. You know, of course, it's 1:30 in the morning. But we got pictures with all of them, and with Lorne Michaels, and, you know, my daughter has her picture with all of them.
Did you meet Amy Poehler?
No.
Okay.
Amy Poehler was not part of that group.
Okay.
That was the current cast.
Okay, I couldn't remember what season.
Yeah, it was before that. But yeah, there's all kinds of opportunities to just experience crazy things there. It's cool
so, like, what are other activities that you liked? What's your go-to? What do you like to do there?
Well,
there's so much.
We shop. We do Fifth Avenue. We always go to St. Patrick's Cathedral. It's just so beautiful there, and a lot of times there's either a service or a wedding going on, and you can go in the back and watch.
Yeah.
You know, you can actually go to church there. On my 40th birthday, I was there on a Sunday, so I went to church at St. Patrick's, and the sermon was about Jesus and St. Peter walking on water.
Oh,
and they talked about giving up control and how important it is to just stop trying to control everything and just let things happen, and things will be better. And I felt like that was a really good message for my 40th birthday. Yeah, that was cool. So we always try and go there. I love Top of the Rock, to go up and see all the scenery. There's a new observatory on the top of the World Trade Center, the new World Trade Center.
Okay.
Now. I haven't been there yet. That's on my list for this time.
We went to the waterfall, but we didn't go inside the museum or anything.
Yeah. The museum is an experience that everyone should have. I don't think I'd ever do it again.
And
it's too much. It's too heavy.
Yeah, it's like when you're there, it's quiet. Like everything.
It's one place in New York where people are very respectful and quiet, and yeah, it's really moving. We always go down and see the Statue of Liberty. Usually we try and take the Staten Island ferry over to Staten Island and back at night. It's a free trip. And you go out into the water, and if you time it right, when the sun's starting to go down, you see all the lights come on in Manhattan. So
that's
it's
awesome.
Amazing. It gives me chills. And you get out closer to the statue, and it's just a fun experience. There's just no shortage of things to do. As I said, I've been there so many times, and I always find
the
something
excitement
new
is
every
always
time.
there.
Yeah. So I'd love to take people with me. My bus holds 55 people.
Okay.
And it fills up pretty fast. And each trip, July and November, are about half full right now. So if people are interested in doing that, they want to get online and find me on Facebook at Arts and Culture Tours, or my website is tripswithlisa.shutterfly.com.
Okay, that'll be linked below.
Yeah, so if you'll link that, then you can go on and join us. You're going to go with us again this year. Okay,
yes.
Cool. And Nathan's going to go with us too.
Sure.
Definitely.
I will eventually.
Okay, good.
Well, thank you for being on our podcast.
Oh, you're welcome. This was fun.
Yes.